Hello, hello, everybody. I'm going to encourage everyone to come off mute as people join. I think a lot of people have opted to watch the replay. I guess everyone's busy closing deals. Let's hope that's what they're doing. Hi, Norman. How are you?
Robert, I'm doing good. How are you?
Very good.
I'll
I
be
got
I'll be go ahead. I'm sorry.
I got your document. Sorry, I got your email, but I didn't see the document attached.
Oh, okay. Let me send that to you, and I'll be on camera here shortly. Let me send that to you.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
Oh,
All right. So I'm gonna get started and just jump on camera when you want. I think it's gonna be a small group. I know a few other people are joining a little bit later. I think their lunches are going late, but I'm gonna get
okay.
started.
All right. Sounds good.
You get a pri almost a private course today. Okay, so let me go to the deck. So can you see my screen, everybody?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So today's day two. So this is the Opportunity Accelerator day. So we're going to talk about what is the Opportunity Accelerator and how can it help you improve your chances of winning deals. So, I'm so proud of this tool, and it is a tool. I've I've been trained on 7 or 8 different very reputable sales methodol. I don't want to say the names of them out loud, but very reputable sales methodologies over the years. And so the thing about sales skill training is you almost have to make it your own and go in the field and sort of battle test it until you get it right. So that's what I've done. Like I've done all that. And so over the years, both being a seller myself and a sales manager, a VP of sales, even a general manager at one point, I was helping people in sales improve their chances of winning. And I've had people come to me and say, when Rob gets involved in deals, we win. So how is it that I know how to do that? Well, it's from applying a lot of these things and seeing what works and seeing what doesn't work. And yesterday we talked a lot about what the hidden sales killer is. So the hidden sales killer, what we talked about yesterday, really covers this. And this, I'm just going to do a quick recap. So yesterday we talked about how in sales, typically speaking, 53% of all sales opportunities are lost. So that's a huge percentage. And I used an analogy that said if you got on an airplane and they said 53% of all airplanes land safely, you probably would never get on an airplane again. And I know I wouldn't. And so this is a situation that we've been living with for extremely long time. And I've been in sales for a really long time. And we've always managed these pipelines of opportunities, and we used to manage a 3-to-1 pipeline. So we would say if your quota is $1 million, you need at least $3 million in your pipeline to be successful. And for a more junior salesperson, we would say you need 4 times pipeline. And so it starts to get a little crazy when you start thinking, wow, you need that many prospects to be able to close. Now, that will never purely go away, but I think we can get a little bit better than 53%. And so what causes that? So this is the hidden piece. So what causes it is we went through how when you're trying to set a goal at the beginning of the year, you say, okay, here's my quota, here's a number I want to hit for my company, and that's your goal. As you're going through your day and you're interacting with customers and people, things like that, you end up mentally going down different paths. And that's what that diagram is trying to show. So most people go through their day and they're all over the place. They're not focused on the goal and they're not doing the things that lead directly to that goal. They're all over the place. So the outcome that you end up with is fueled by the thoughts that you have in your mind. So that's the fundamental premise of what is the sort of the thing that kills all deals, and that's the main thing. So when that happens, you work each day and you start to worry because you're not seeing the outcome of what you're there to do. So as humans, we need to see it to believe it. And so if we need to see it to believe it, if you go too long without seeing evidence that something's working, this is when the worry starts to set in. And worry left long enough turns into fear. Fear and worry come from subconscious programming we have in our minds, and that's what identity is. So I have a whole program that gets into this and systematically strips away these things so you can perform at your best. But these are the key things that I've seen over 27 years doing this that get in the people's way of being successful. So if you don't find a solution to it, what ends up happening is you end up getting into this death spiral. And maybe that's too aggressive of a word, death spiral, but that's what we used to call it. And so this spiral starts to cause you to go down and down and down. So a negative thought comes up either because it's part of your identity that you're carrying forward from the past or something. So that comes up, these negative thoughts. The negative thoughts turn into actions. The actions you're supposed to do, you start to not do them, or you don't do them with with positive intent. So you're not fully showing up. And then that starts to affect your results. So it's a bit of like a self-fulfilling prophecy where you have negative thoughts, so therefore you don't do the things you're supposed to do, and then your results don't come. So your seeing and believing is getting worse and worse. So to shift that, we need to believe in the outcome we want to happen, and we need to believe it until it happens, not believe it until we start to see it. Believe it until and once it happens, then you're good. But most people can't do that. They can't believe in something until they start to see things happening. So we talked about how when sales isn't working well, people turn to sales books, sales training, and that's focusing on sales skills. And then we talked a little bit about sales tools. So sales tools are the things that you use. So it might be a CRM system, it might be a marketing automation system, it might be there's all the different tools that you use to be in sales. There's tons. And then there's a sales process. So these are what are you doing day in, day out? Do you have the right process to go through to be successful? So if you focus only on those things and you don't focus on your mindset, and the mindset program that I have is called CALM, CALM, and it stands for Clear Authentic Learning Methodology. So it actually takes you through a systematic way of stripping away a lot of those negative thoughts so you show up on game day ready and all the investments you've made in your sales skills and all that stuff work. Right? That's what I do. Now, this is kind of where we left it yesterday, and I sent you home with some homework. So Erica, I have one that someone emailed, but I don't know, Norvin, if you sent yours. I'm happy to go through yours if you want.
as soon as I find it now,
That's okay.
yeah, I thought because you had to save it. Let me see. But as soon as I find it, I will get it over to you.
No problem. I'm going
Here
to
it
jump out of
is.
this for a second. So this is one that I received yesterday. And so this one, let me look at this one. Okay, so let me go through this one. Can you guys see it? Oh yeah, I can see you see it. All right. So the first question that I asked was describe one real sales situation that fell apart. So this is a deal that you lost. What happened? And so what happened in the moment that everything shifted? So this person says we had a sales opportunity that we were competing with our toughest competitor and we lost it even though we thought we were going to win. Okay, so this happens a lot. You think you're going to win. So I remember this one salesperson I had. And so every month I would do my forecast with this salesperson. And I would say, okay, show me the deals that you're going to close this month. And they would say, okay, these ones. All right, great. So I would start asking questions about them. So I'd say things like, so this one here, why do you think it's going to close? Oh, the last meeting we had was great. They were really engaged and I really feel good about it. It's okay. Who's the decision maker? Who's making the actual decision on it? And they'd say, I don't, I don't know. I was like, okay. So are you presenting to the decision maker or are you just presenting to people that are influencing the deal? And they said, I don't know because I don't know who the decision maker is. I said, okay. Well, how big is the opportunity? Do they have budget for this? And they say, well, I didn't really ask that question. So anyway, my point is what ends up happening in a sales cycle is we typically go with what we feel. And we say, I feel good about this. They were very engaged and things like that. And so what you want to do is you want to switch to asking very specific questions in the sales cycle so you know where you stand. So in this example, they're saying that they were competing against their toughest competitor. So right away, when I see that written there, their mindset is we're on our back heels. Like we're going against our toughest competitor. So is if you go into an opportunity feeling like you're already defeated, then it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? So you will end up not doing the things you need to do. So that's that one. What's the next one? So what were you thinking and feeling right before it went sideways? Yeah, I gotta move this because I can't see it fully. Okay, there we go. So this one says there were multiple people involved in the sales cycle and we all had mixed feelings. It was hard to read this customer. I was feeling a combination of we will win to we will lose. All right. So this is pretty common. So the question is, what were you thinking and feeling right before it went sideways? So you're in an opportunity, you're starting to feel like things aren't going well. So when you're starting to feel like that, it actually starts to prevent you from doing the things that you need to do to be successful. So in this case, it could have been the speed at which that you're following up. So if your mindset is shifting to, I don't think we're going to win this, you start to behave differently. And not only do you not do some things, the things you do, you don't do with conviction, what we call inspired action. You're not doing it with inspired action. So if you allow these thoughts to creep in, and I know it's hard, right? Because we do have competitors that are tough and we do have these types of things. But the whole point of all of this is if you can control the thoughts that are going through your mind, you can perform at your best. Just like my example of the NFL football player. So the NFL football player steps on the field on game day. All of the training that he's done, all of the eating healthy and the working out at the gym and all that stuff, all that's in the back. That's all preparation. Now, once you're there, what goes through your mind is the most important thing. So that's what I'd say there. Okay, the next one. How did your mindset in that moment shape what you said or did? So this one says, I was not really aware of my mindset at the time. I would say I felt unsure if we would win or lose. So that is your mindset right there. So what feeling unsure of winning, what I'm trying to teach everybody by doing this is the most important thing in a sales cycle is you need to believe you won already. I know that sounds crazy, but you need to believe you've won already, but then do all of the things that are required to win the deal. So the difference is believing that it's going to be really difficult to win and still trying to do all of the things that you're going to do. And if you can't do that properly, then what will happen is the energy level or what we call the vibration, right? Your energy you're giving off is different. You don't show up properly. If you ever watch a sports team in the playoffs, typically they come at it with everything they've got because it's the playoffs. But if a player steps on the field and they're thinking it's going to be tough, they everything that can happen bad happens. In football, they fumble the ball more than ever. And so if you allow, and any of you who play sports, you'll know this, but if you allow things to get in your mind, it affects your performance. So you don't want to do that. All right, the fourth out of the five questions. If you had complete control of your thoughts, what would you have done differently that would have changed the outcome? So they're saying, I am not sure we could have changed the outcome. I don't see how my thoughts would have changed anything. Okay, so this is where a lot of people live, right? They don't believe that what you're thinking can affect anything. And I'm here to tell you that's exactly wrong. What you think has a massive impact, more than you realize, over the outcome and the success that you're having. People who have the natural ability to just push through and drive through, no matter what they're observing, tend to have success because they don't let the observation or lack of observation of things get in their way. They just push through, push through, push through. So that's why people that are like that tend to have success more than people who are maybe over analytical because they're analyzing things too much. But that's the most important thing you can do is focus your mindset on the outcome and believe it's already happened. All right. The last one is, do you notice similar doubt or second guessing in other areas of your life? So whatever happens to you or what you're doing in your business world typically is happening in your personal world too. So we've got quite a few people going through the program right now. We're just finishing our last cycle. And I've had a lot of students come to me and say that this is affecting not only their business life, but it's affecting positively their personal life. So they're able to set these objectives and control what they're thinking. And so it's pretty awesome to see. But that's the most important thing is when you're noticing these things even outside of your business life, then what that means is if we go back to that identity, the identity is there and it's not just affecting your business, but it's also affecting your personal life. So if you do the work and actually learn to lessen the control these things have over you, it will affect not only your career, but it'll affect your personal life too. So Erica tells me that. So Norvin, I think we have yours now. I'm going to stop sharing for a second. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good.
All right, nice to see you. Hey
Good to
Derek.
see you as well.
All right, let me go get it. Bear with me
Okay.
for a second.
All right, take your time.
Here, Google Docs. Okay, here we go. So, so do you mind me sharing yours?
No, not at all.
Okay. Okay, so this is being recorded as well, and we put it out on YouTube after. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay. All right, great. Okay, I appreciate that. So, I haven't seen this before. It's like a magic trick. I've never seen you before, have I?
No, you have not seen the contents of
Nothing up
my
my
response.
sleeve. You know what's funny? We do these events, and you're gonna have 100 people sign up, and you get like 3 people show up.
No,
And
well, you're recording it though, so that
yeah,
that
so
it's gonna last forever.
yeah, most people, even me, I was supposed to go on a webinar at noon today. It was about building agentic AI agents for
Yeah,
marketing.
yeah,
And the lady that's doing it, I know her, I trust her, she's awesome, and I didn't show up.
right.
But I'll watch the recording later. All right, so let's jump in. So the first question, describe one real sales situation that fell apart. What happened in the moments everything shifted? So I had a situation where everything was roses until they were told the investment. So talk to me more about that. Is that as soon as they knew how much it was going to cost, they vanished?
Well, we'll probably get to this later, but we were at this point, this is the third call, and I, you know, just aside, like I said, I thought everything was roses. I mean, from the solutions that I was proposing, I mean, just, it was just like everything was just like, she didn't. So basically, the context was. I had an office that was doing 50 grand a month. Now we're only doing like 20 to 30. And but when we were doing 50, like I was pulling my hair out, running crazy. Um, but at 20, I'm not satisfied. I want to make more money, right? So it's the classic, I want to make more money. Well, what usually is not included or what's not considered in all of that is like, okay, what are all the things we have to do to make that happen? So I essentially had, solved all those problems, created a solution, which she was just like totally, head over heels for. Um, and then so when we get to the, essentially the closing scenario, like this is, the investment, this is what it takes to, what it takes for us to work together and accomplish what you want to do. And then it's at that point where it just went off the tracks. And so, I guess we'll walk through it as we go, but that's where it is at that point.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so what this tells me is when it comes to the price of something, this is an extremely common thing for salespeople and entrepreneurs. So it's actually one of the first things we teach in the course that I have. So it's called the money weakness. And so the money weakness is basically how we perceive money will dictate how we show up when it comes time to tell someone how much something costs. So what do I mean by that? So what I mean by that is when we grow up, we start forming a feeling about money. And for most of us, we're not born into, silver spoons and millions of dollars and money is not an issue. Most of us are born into a situation where mom and our dad go to work and they work really hard and we have enough money, but we can't afford that vacation trip and, we're not going to go buy that that car. We're going to go buy this cheaper car. And so we see money as a resource that is in lack. It's not something that you can just turn on a tap and it comes out, right? And so we view money as something that is to be hoarded, protected. It's not a resource that flows abundantly. And so because of that, we develop feelings and blocks when it comes to money. And for a salesperson, when it comes time to tell the customer how much it is, the thoughts that go through their mind are they're going to think this is a lot of money. They're going to think this is too much. As soon as they hear how much this is, they're going to say no. So these are the scripts that run through our minds, and most of us do it. I remember, so I was working for Xerox. I was a sales manager, and we had a list price for something that we could sell it at. We had the floor price that the seller could go to every single time that they were selling, and we would watch this. So guess how many times or how often the salesperson would sell at the floor price? Every time.
Probably majority of the time, yeah.
Yeah, all the time. And then we came up with manager approval price. So that was a little bit below the floor price. Guess how many times once they knew that was available, I got asked?
Right.
A lot, almost all the time. And then we came up with a GM approval, district manager GM approval pricing that was a little bit lower than that. And once they knew that was available, guess how many times? So my point is, um, when it comes to the price of something, we have to examine what are the scripts running in our thoughts that are preventing us from showing up in a confident way with pricing, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is it's going back to selling value. So if you're selling something for $10,000 and the value that that thing you're selling can bring $100,000 to that person or company, that's a great investment. I'd sign up for that every day, right? And so there's different ways of doing that. So return on investment calculations are one way to do it. And another way to do it is spinning back to value. So rather than talking about the price, you talk about the investment and the outcome that they're going to have from that. And the thing about selling is what you want to do is you don't want to leave that till the very end. You want to be dropping that almost all the way along so that when they get to the point of pricing, they're not surprised. So that's just me on the spot coaching for that. Okay, the next one. What were you thinking and feeling right before it went sideways? So I was happily anticipating serving the client and working on their project. So that's perfect. So your joy and pleasure about landing this thing is there. The trick is making sure that that is being felt by them too. So I'll go off script a bit. How do you think the customer was feeling at that point? Were they feeling as excited and happy to get started too?
Well, reflecting back on it, she was nervous.
Right.
I didn't sense that at that time, but she was nervous, and at the same time, that's where, um, because well, I'll wait to say because I was certainly felt like the value was there. I was looking forward to serving her. I didn't have any issues personally. I had basically had overcome a lot of the things that you had mentioned already at that point.
Right.
However, I wasn't sensing and understanding that same dynamic from her perspective, though. What are her, how does she relate with money and what is she willing to? And there was a lot of that I can tell there's a lot that I didn't uncover more
Right.
so from a psychological perspective, more than like what I was offering. And I think the other thing was, I'm gonna like totally date myself here, but I don't know if you guys ever saw this Cosby Show episode where Vanessa had brought home, she was in college, she had brought home the maintenance guy who was a little bit older than her, and he was like a great guy. And the lesson of that was, like towards the end, he was like, what's your favorite meal? And for him, it was a steak. All right, well, I'm gonna get your favorite steak, a porterhouse, whatever. It's got all the mashed potatoes, everything like you like it, right? But I'm gonna go and I'm gonna put it on a garbage can lid. And he was like, would you still want it? And well, of course he wouldn't want it, right? So it could be the best thing in the world, but that helped me realize, A, the psychological component of it, but also that I have to put the experience and the look and feel around what I'm asking for if it is a higher ticket item, because all that factors in. So that was like really, kind of what I reflected back on.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I think what happens in a sales cycle like that is we can be um, we can be showing up on the sales cycle, and we can be talking to the customer and telling the customer all these wonderful things, and we feel really good because
Right.
we're doing all this stuff, but we're not watching what the customer is doing. We're not reversing it and take the customer through the steps of, what are the key issues they're going through that your service or product solves.
Yeah.
And is she, in this case, she's starting to see how that's going to help her. So it's always checking in and making sure that's happening all along. And that's what the Opportunity Accelerator does. That's what we're going to be talking about more a little bit today, and then we're going to jump right into it in a big way tomorrow. So what's important, there's two things that's important in this one. Number one is keeping your mindset on the prize, on the I've already won this deal, right? And because when you feel that way, you behave differently, you act differently. And we're gonna, because I pre-read your next question just now. So I'm going to talk about that in a second. And and I've been where you are, right? Like I've done this. We all do this. And so keeping your customer, having them come along with you, that's the more important thing. Now, how do you do that? Well, most salespeople guess. They assume.
Yeah.
In that other one that wrote in, they said, what the heck? I felt good. I think they said, like, I felt like things were good. We had a great meeting. And
Yeah.
I'm telling you, after managing hundreds of salespeople, you know how many times I heard that? I
Right.
feel really good. They really liked me, right?
Yeah.
Now, that's good, but at some point, you have to ask your customer questions and you have to say things like, if you needed to invest financially in this, what are your minimums and maximums? Like, what is your ceiling on that? And see if they'll answer that question. Some of them won't because they see that as a budget question, but try to feel that out and never be afraid to talk about money, right? A lot of
Yeah.
people are afraid to talk about money. Never be afraid to talk about money.
Well, I mean, I think that's an important, and I don't know, in fact, I guess we're still gonna, I don't even know if I really had addressed that very explicitly because that is an important indicator.
Yeah.
Because we don't have to talk about that. I don't have to ask that like up front. It doesn't matter. Like, what is the problem here we're trying to solve? What's the value of that? But now it's important for me to understand, okay, now that we've established what the value of it is, whatever that number is, let's say it's $100,000. And then when I ask, what is your budget minimums and maximum? And you're like, well,
Ten
maybe a
bucks.
couple $1,000s up, maybe 10,000 or something like, or, let's say $2,000 to $5,000, right? Just to be extreme about it.
Yeah.
So I can clearly see right there that what you want is way out of proportion than what you're willing to invest in for that result. And
Right.
so we either can talk about that or again, that's a red flag that lets us know that there's a disconnect.
Right. Well, and that's important to know. Are you dealing with the right person? Should you be spending any time with that person at all? Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so most of us that are in sales, we really view sales as an act of service. Like we're trying to help these people,
Yeah.
right? But the way we help, the currency we use to help them is we charge them money because we need to spend time to help them in the end.
Right.
So it's just finding that right match, right? And some people are willing to invest the amount of money that you require to do what it is that you're going to do, and some of them aren't. So you
Yeah.
can weed them out fairly early to so that you know who you're dealing with. But the other thing to do though is once the customer sees value and they really believe that what you can do helps them, then they're almost like I don't care how much it is. Like this
Right.
problem is so big. Like this is
Right.
a like I think of what I do. So I help people improve these things so that they can go and sell a lot more stuff.
Right.
So how much value do I bring to people? Well, it depends. So if someone is doing $1 million in sales and I can help them, do a 1.5 million, that's huge, right?
Yeah.
So but it's all about bringing your customer through that journey, keeping your mindset in a good place so that you show up. And that's the next question. So this happens a lot. Have you ever sat through a timeshare presentation? I have.
It was decades ago because I figured out what it was about.
Yeah, so it's funny because they're your best friends at first and they're
Right,
doing all the normal sales stuff that you do. And then as soon as you say, look, I'm not doing this. I don't care what you say, I'm not doing this.
right,
Just let me out of here. Let me leave. As soon
right.
as you do that, bang, they change.
Yeah,
And it's unfortunate because they view, timeshare sales, they view their sales cycle as this period of time while you're in front of them.
yeah,
And the reality is, people could go away and they could make a positive decision later.
Yeah.
But the sales, that model they use is just in person, face to face. It's so old, they still do it. But my point in saying that is it's important not to get defensive and not to take it personally. It's this person on the other end of the conversation has made a decision based on the facts and information they have. And that's why it's important to check in. So in the Opportunity Accelerator, what we teach is we actually teach really early in the sales cycle. You have a meeting and say something to this effect. Um, Mrs. Customer, so I've got a significant number of questions that I want to ask you. There's probably 10 to 12 questions. Are you comfortable if I do that now? I want to make sure I know everything I need to know to best help and support you. Is that okay if I do that? And they'll say yes. So as soon as someone says yes, they open, right? So then you ask your questions. And then you go through your questions and you ask them all. And that gets you set up. Then you know exactly what you're dealing with. It's such a good thing to do. It's the other analogy I like to use is it's like going to the doctor. So you go to the doctor and you say, I have a sore elbow, I want you to fix it. And then if you're not willing to answer the doctor's questions, how does the doctor know what to do? And it's the same thing for a salesperson. So what I find most salespeople do is they're afraid, for whatever reason, they're afraid to ask questions and they assume things and they leave things out and they skip over things. And then they get to the end of the sales cycle and they lose it. And then they get frustrated and upset, which is absolutely understandable.
Hmm.
And so that used to help happen to me, and that used to happen to my sales team. So what's important really early on is to ask the questions that are required to know who you're dealing with, and then plan your sales cycle. I used to call it a win theme. So at the end of those 10 to 12 questions, you would develop a win theme of how am I going to win this customer over? And the other best question, the other best outcome of that process is I'm going to disconnect from this customer because there's no chance, right? So there's two things that come out of it. Number one, you know what you need to know to win it. And number two, you know to stop working with that client so you can spend time on the ones that are ready to get your help.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's the best thing. Okay, next question. If you had complete control of your thoughts, what would you have done differently that could have changed the outcome? I would have just addressed the concern and moved on. Exactly. Perfect. Yeah, so it's really being present and feeling confident to be able to ask and say whatever needs to be said. And for people who are very direct, they just do that, right? But they do it to the point where there's no consideration to the customer. So it can feel abrasive, and that's where a lot of salespeople get a bad a bad reputation. But typically, when we used to hire salespeople at Xerox, we would hire these extremely extroverted people, and they would succeed because they could blow through most of this stuff. But the problem is the customer never wanted to deal with them. So there's a hybrid somewhere where
Hmm.
you've got the mental strength to ask and say what needs to be said, but you've got the empathy and compassion for the customer so they don't feel like they're being sold to. They feel
Yep.
like you're there to help, right?
Yep. Yep.
That's the balance. And I shifted the profile of who I hired years ago and the kind of people I would hire that did naturally have empathy for the customer, but they needed to learn these skills. So that's
Yeah.
actually my ideal client. My ideal client is someone who has that empathy and maybe has some of these thoughts that are getting in the way, and they need a structure to lean on so that they don't do that anymore.
Hmm.
Because I
Hmm.
don't know if you remember the video yesterday. I was a service technician
Yeah.
and I went into sales and I got probably arguably at that time the best sales training that money could buy from Xerox back then. And so I did the training, I went into my territory and I was failing miserably. And I was allowing my thoughts to get in the way and I was allowing the identity I was carrying back then get in the way. And I didn't even know that at the time. I couldn't even say that. I didn't know what that was back then. And I did some positive mental attitude work. And that's the only thing I did different. I still had the same training, I had the same territory, I had the same boss, I had everything the same except for that. And I killed it. Like I was rookie of the year, rep of the year. So And then I kept learning that and building on that and perfecting that with all of my teams. And it just works. I can't describe it. It just works. But the last question on this is, do you notice similar doubt or second guessing in other areas of your life? No doubt, but I did deep reflection. What was me? What was them? How do I overcome both shortcomings? I made significant changes to my process that influenced position and perception throughout the process, as well as how I qualify and even how I structured my offerings, considering the psychology of success and self-sabotage. That's perfect. So you're examining your role in that because the only thing you can control is yourself. We can't control them. But what we can do is we can have a process we use so that very early in the sales cycle, we're actually understanding who it is that we're dealing with. We're getting really clear on how we're going to do this thing, and we cut bait early if we don't think it's a good fit, or we continue on if we do. So I think that's great. Awesome. Well, thanks for doing that exercise. Did
My pleasure.
how did you feel about it? Like, was it good?
I mean, it's fun. It's fun. So no, I feel good about it, and and just especially just kind of going from the initial answers to a couple perfects. Like, okay, there's some growth there.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate you doing it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. My pleasure. Appreciate it.
Okay. So that's closing off what we covered yesterday. So all of that is mindset stuff, right? And when you apply these principles, you can then step into your full potential as a seller, an entrepreneur, right? Because these are the things that hold us back. When your thoughts are coming across your mind and prevent you from showing up, that's that's tough. So yesterday we talked about sales skills, sales tools, sales process, and the mindset piece. So my program is called Calm, Clear Authentic Learning Methodology, and it's a program that I offer to people to take you through a systematic way of releasing the power these kinds of things have over you. But what I want to talk about now is what the Opportunity Accelerator does. So this is my crude way to show this graphic. So the Opportunity Accelerator is addressing these things, sales skills, tools, and process. So what is it? So the Opportunity Accelerator is a series of questions that I have used and perfected over the last 26 years of being in sales. So they come from foundational sales training that I got from Xerox. Then I've been trained on many, many other different sales methodologies that are out there. I've read countless sales books, like most of us have in sales. And I've actually been in either a direct contributor sales role or a head of sales managing sales teams throughout these last 26 years. So what I've done is I've battle tested these theories and principles, and we would use them and lose a deal. We would use some and win a deal. So I really know what works and what doesn't work. So when I used to sit down with my sales team in my last role, I would go through the pipeline. And I was always managing the pipeline to be at around 3 to 1. That was sort of the gospel of what we would do. And I would sit down and ask these questions, and I would quickly know which ones were going to win and which ones were going to lose. And so the ones we were going to lose, I wouldn't tell the salesperson to let go of those. They would keep trying to do them, but I would zero in on the ones we're going to win, and we would do it with this. So the questions then are applied to an active opportunity. And so here's an example of one. I don't like showing the whole thing because like I could literally sell this thing for thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, but I offer it in my program. But the questions are, here's a couple here. So this one, there's three different versions. There's a 15 question one that I put out for free. You guys probably already have it. Then there's a 50 question one, which is what this one is. And then I have a 300 question one. Now, you would never ask 300 questions on a sales cycle, but what you would do is you would select the ones that make the most sense for that opportunity. You would apply it, and then you'll increase your chances of winning that thing astronomically. So let me just give you an example of the ones that are exposed here. I'm going to try to read it. So the way it works is this one has 50 questions in 10 different sections. So this section is called client needs and challenges. And so the question is, do you know the customer's primary challenge, problem, and pain point? And then this column here are the instructions, what I mean by that. So this one's pretty self-explanatory. Some of them get pretty deep though. So this one says, do you know the current business pain points the customer is having that relates to something your product or service can solve? Okay, very, very basic question, but I gotta tell you, probably 50% of the time, one of my salespeople would be forecasting a deal to close. And I would ask that question, do you know what the primary business challenge or pain point is? They would say no. Or if they did, they would say things that were features of our product we were selling. So my last role, we were selling a lot of CRM software. And so they would say things like, well, their current system, you know, they can't access this easily or something. And they never would get to the business impact of the problems they were having. So if you can get to the point where you're addressing the business issues that a customer is having problems with, and your product or service solves those issues, that's the holy grail of selling. So that's the first question on this one. So the second one is, do you know the customer's goals or desired outcome? So this is an extension of this other question. And what I'm saying there is, has the customer set any goals that they want to achieve by acquiring what your company sells? Is their goal easily expressed as a key performance indicator that is measurable and can become something your product or service can help them achieve? So what you're looking for is you're saying, okay, here you are today in your current situation. Here's your business issues that you're having that we just discussed. What does the future look like for you? What do you want to happen? Do you have a specific goal you're trying to achieve? Is there a number you're trying to get to? Is there a metric we can use that once you decide to work with us, you want us to help you achieve that number? What is that? So that's where you're taking them out of thinking about the sales cycle and you're actually putting them into the future. And you're having them think about the future and the vision they have for success. There's not one person or company that buys something that doesn't have a positive impact on their business. Like they don't spend money just because they have money to spend. They want some kind of a positive impact. If you're more B2C, selling to individuals, it's the same thing. That individual will spend money if they can clearly see how investing the money you're asking them for is going to get them to a specific objective. So if you can define that goal or objective very clearly, and then show them. So the rest of the questions get into showing them how your organization can get to that goal better than anybody else. So if you're able to do that, that's where you really start to sell effectively, right? So this is where the Opportunity Accelerator, all 300 questions, if you use them, um, help you with your process and their built-in sales skills. So even if you don't have formal sales training, if you just go and ask these questions, it's kind of like getting a 20-year sales course in a spreadsheet. But that's how it works. So I'll stop there for a second. Any questions on that? Make sure I got chat. Okay, no questions. All right. So um, the next thing then is, what are we going to do tomorrow? So tomorrow, yesterday after the session, you were emailed the second part of the homework. And this on the next slide, here, I'll go there now. So this is what it looks like. So it's 4 pages, and it's basically asking you key questions about an actual opportunity that you have right now. This is something that you want to win. So I encourage you to fill that in and submit it just like you did the other one. And then we'll use the Opportunity Accelerator live tomorrow to go through the questions that I would ask. So I'm going to select what I think the best questions are from my 300 list of questions. And then what we'll do is we'll do that live on that opportunity. Now, don't put anything into that opportunity that will allow someone to know what it is. So either company name, person's name, none of that type of stuff. Only put things in it that you're comfortable, if you want to share it, sharing. And then by the time we're done, we'll create a strategy, a win theme that you can go and execute and excuse me, and have a better chance of winning that deal. All right. So For those of you that are here live, so you're welcome to submit that. Those of you who are going to watch this later and you plan on participating tomorrow, then please go ahead and do that, and you can send that to me via the email address on the form. All right. And so I'll open up the floor now for questions to see if anybody has any. And I really appreciate you guys being here in person. And for those of you watching the recording, thanks for joining. Any questions from anybody or comments?
No, I just want to say thank you again for the session today. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks for being a great participant.
Yeah,
Makes it
My
a lot more
pleasure.
fun.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
All right.
yeah.
Well,
No,
we'll
thanks,
see.
Rob.
No, you're welcome, Dirk. Okay, for those, hopefully see you tomorrow, and we're gonna put the rubber to the road. All
All
right.
right.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody.
Bye for now.
Perfect. Thank you. Bye.
Take care.